Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. This is Katie Koestner. I am the primary host of the Dear Katie podcast, and we are so delighted to have you take this journey with us on our weekly podcast episodes. I just want to remind everyone to do great self-care. Thriving is part of the purpose of this podcast, and we definitely want you to take a break at any time. Warm bath, fresh air, walk a dog, have a bite of chocolate, whatever you need to do good care for yourself. Just as a reintroduction, if you're not familiar with me, I am the woman who was on the cover of Time magazine at age 18 as the first in history to speak out nationally and publicly as the victim of date rape. And HBO made a film about me, and I went on to become the executive director of the Take Back the Night Foundation. We are the oldest, largest global movement on sexual violence in all forms for all people in the world. So we encourage you to visit our website for lots more information. So I'm going to turn it over to our host and our guest for today. Hi, everybody. It is Katie Koestner. We are on the Dear Katie podcast, and I'm delighted to welcome all of our listeners back to continue their journey on healing, thrivership, and definitely growth-minded toward what can we do next, because our trauma can easily turn into the most powerful motivation ever. And my guest today, Paula Lakabara, is absolutely Lakabara. I think she'll say it again. But she is fabulous at energizing all of us, thinking about the transformation of the feminine into something incredibly powerful. I'll read a little bit more about her. And I doubt this will be one of our more difficult triggering episodes. I think this will be one of those, let's do some more of this empowering episodes. So it'll be like, go, 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 and where to next, I think. But just remember, you can always take a break if you need. So Paula is an international transformational coach and mentor. She specializes in empowering women entrepreneurs, especially. With her feminine energy approach, she guides her clients to trust themselves, cultivate flow, ease, and balance in business life, and also personal relationships. She's an expert in the art of receiving, and Paula offers online courses and delivers talks globally, including a couple TEDx talks, and inspires ambitious women all over the globe, I'll say. So I am delighted to welcome you, Paula, to the podcast. So anything else you want to share about your bio or history?
No, I love it. Thank you for having me, Katie. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to this podcast today.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Oh, lovely.
And I moved to America about 22 years ago.
Okay. And what was the impetus for your move? Just out of curiosity.
Life, I started doing this work. I had a big awakening in my life. It was a divorce where I was doing everything right. I'm the oldest of my family. When I was born, my parents already had a special needs brother, but I became the oldest because he wasn't available to do much. And then I had two more sisters after me, and so I'm the one that was taking care of everyone and the good girl, right? The one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the one taking care and being responsible. And so you had all these siblings and two parents. Were they married at the time, throughout your time?
Yeah, they're still married, and of course, given their circumstances and their own story and their lives, they did the best they could. But I fulfilled that role to help.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted everyone to be happy. I didn't want to become a burden. I want to make sure that everyone was happy. And then I checked off all the boxes. I did everything. I got good grades. I didn't want to bring trouble home. All the things that a good girl would do. And then I found the guy that checked all the boxes. I got married at 23.
Wow.
I'm 50 now.
You're
so
50
back in the days,
are you 50?
I'm 50.
50. Oh my gosh, that's a big year. I hope you did something fun to celebrate.
I did. I had a gorgeous celebration back home. I spent a month in Argentina in January when is my birthday. And yeah, we did a beautiful, beautiful celebration. And so, but yeah, so, I did all the things. And eventually one day, my husband at the time, once we got the apartment, the job that paid really well, the whole thing, I was 25, he was 27. And he decided that, he was confused. He didn't love me anymore. And pretty much our marriage was over.
Oh my goodness.
But that was, looking back, of course, it was terrible for me at the time because I felt like my whole house of cards was falling apart. Everything that I didn't work out, and I felt like a failure. I felt like I disappointed everybody. But it also gave me the biggest gift. And I remember a friend, I was like not eating, you know how it is, like I was in that breakup, my heart was broken into pieces, and my friend took me literally by the hair. It's like, no, you're coming with me. And I did this whole week of a spiritual
Retreat?
it was like a spiritual retreat. And well, after that, that's when I realized, oh my gosh, when the veil lifts up and you change your glasses and you're seeing life in a different way. And that led me to a journey of spending a month in India, then moving into the interior of the country, and then moving to America. My sister was in America already, and she called me up. She's like, I'm so homesick, please, come and visit me. And I'm like, Lou, I don't have any money right now. She's like, I pay for your ticket. And the moment I was packing, I heard this voice. And I say this because we all have that voice that most times we don't hear. But anyway, when I was packing, she's like, pack everything really well because you're not coming back.
Oh,
I'm not kidding.
That's so great.
And that was 22 years ago.
That's fantastic. That's such a good story. And so, was she here for any particular reason, like for school or?
No, yeah, she came for school and she decided to stay. Argentina was in a huge economic crisis at the time. And so she's like, well, I'm staying. Our grandmother, she was an American citizen and she died in America. She loved this country. She moved. Yeah, we have a lineage of very strong, powerful women.
That's fantastic. That's what we want to hear about. We want to hear about like the strong, powerful women. I think
yeah. Well, my grandma,
listeners.
Yeah, my grandma was a trailblazer. She divorced my grandfather when my mom was 11. And then after my mom and her sister, my aunt, got married, she went and pursued her dreams. And she moved to America to be a teacher. She loved this country.
She came all by herself? No man attached?
No, she came on her own. I mean, back in those days, like I'm talking about. Yeah, that's huge. And so, she died pretty young at 65, but I mean, she trailblazed our path.
Yeah.
Today, my sister and I live in America. My mom worked at the U.S. Embassy for 20 years. She's retired now. We're so connected to this country. It's not a surprise we live here. And so I moved here and eventually I found my purpose. I found this vocation that I was, it just fell on my lap, but I was meant to do this. And when you follow that voice inside, and I'll tell more about who that part of us is, it leads you to living the life that you're meant to live, that you came here to live.
Right. So let's talk about, so you're here and what happens first, second, and third. Like you're with your sister for a bit, right? Living there?
So I moved to Miami for a bit and I started over. I mean, think about it. I had really great jobs. I had 2 languages, Spanish and English, perfect. Because I forgot to mention that when I graduated from high school, I spent a year in America. I did an exchange student program and I learned English.
Okay.
So then I went back home and I had perfect English. So I found really good jobs that pay me really well at the time for a young girl. Then I met my ex-husband and then, we got divorced eventually. And then again, so life, right? So I moved here and I started from zero. I started working at a bakery. I had to wake up at 4 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
The true The true immigrant story. I came with 2 suitcases and $200 in my pocket, and I
Oh,
thought I was
no.
just coming here. Yes. So I started from scratch, and it's like rewriting my story. Okay, that story of being left and being abandoned, and divorce, which was at the time still was a big thing in Argentina. It was my mom was really suffering that, and I'm like, well, this is just what it is. And so rewriting that story, and I felt like I had a second chance at life.
Mhm.
And what are you going to do with this? It wasn't all like colorful and roses and rainbows and unicorns. It was not. It was very hard because you starting from scratch, but in a country that you had to learn the new rules. You had to learn all the things and all the ways. And on top of that, I was just discovering myself. And so I made a lot of mistakes, but I also made a lot of successes. And eventually I met this guy, and I moved to New York, and I found my career. I know, it's just one of those things.
Okay.
I said, okay, I'm not. Well, but that's what happens when you're living life light, because I had nothing to lose.
Mhm.
And I had everything to win. So what did I choose? I chose. I'm ambitious. I'm very ambitious myself, but I'm like, there's got to be something. And I started. I was working. I was doing the inner work at the same time, because that spiritual retreat that I did opened me up to knowing that there was something more to life. It wasn't just this,
Okay.
right?
And so,
And so
yeah, no, no,
Mhm.
that's good. So I want to go back to the guy in New York. How did you meet him?
I met him in Miami, and we connected. We fell in love at the time, and he lived in New York. We did long distance for a while, and then eventually I decided that I was going to move if I studied something. And what I wanted to do was skincare. So I love beauty, and I have an eye for beauty. I love that. And so I decided to study to become an esthetician, and I did that. And then with the guy, didn't work out so well, so I have my own, I have my own apartment and living life in New York City.
I love it.
And at the time I was still studying, and so I'm very grateful to that relationship,
Okay.
because he was very generous. It didn't work out for us, but he was very generous, and he helped me with school. He was he cheered me on. He wanted me to succeed.
Okay.
He wanted me to
Okay.
have what I wanted.
Okay.
And so and then in many other aspects we just didn't, it didn't work out. And I can stand here for like 5 hours to tell you my life story, but eventually I found my own apartment. I started working at a spa that I loved, and I became really successful. I mean, I was the main esthetician at the time, and I had a lot of clients that love me and I love them, and I created really strong and powerful relationships. Eventually, I found out that I found out I went to study nutrition. See how life takes you, right? I Somebody told me, well, my clients were like, okay, so how can I get my, like, what supplements can I take, or what foods can I eat for my better skin? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know, but I was already in the path of eating healthy, and when you start up leveling, and when you start connecting with your true self, you start up leveling, because you start loving yourself and you start caring for yourself, and that certain things you're much more with the things that make you feel better. And so I was already on that journey, and everything that I was helping my clients with at the time were part of, like, okay, how can you improve your life? Your skin is just a result. It's telling you something, but underneath there's something more. There's something bigger that your body is trying to tell you. What do you need to address? So I went to study nutrition and study.
Let's wait
Yes.
before you go on to that. I'd like just telling our listeners something that I was thinking while you were saying that. Because I think it's so important. You said your skin and feeling great, and you keep going. What's making you feel better? And you said about skincare or health or good food. Those are positive things to do. They're not like damaging your addictions or deep dives into dark holes, dark places. And so I like our listeners to hear
Yeah.
like Paula's excitement, and I love it. The enthusiasm. It comes from finding good paths to better things that are healthy and rewarding rather than harmful
Yeah.
and dark. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to pause and like talk about that for a second and make sure that sits in with us. Because it's not always easy to make choices, but I guess that are helpful. And I think one thing that's interesting is like if we micro move when your skin feels like lovely, when someone's like, a facial, you were an esthetician, like, oh my gosh, that's such a fabulous experience to have someone else care for your face for a second. And so,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
mhm. No, as you were saying this, so I had this client and she was 19. I'll never forget her. Like that was when I was awoken to like, wow, this is the power of taking care of ourselves. And I'm sure that anyone can really benefit from this story. She came to me and she was very fair skinned and she had her cheeks that were filled with bumps and red bumps and zits and pimples, but they were not just red, they were pussy, I mean, I'm sorry,
Oh
it's a little
gosh.
descriptive, but
Yeah.
they were like, so and she would like be like this and looking down, and she would come into my my esthetician room, and you could see her very shy, speaking very low, and her self-esteem was crushed because she had this. And so when I told her, I remember I said, your skin, first of all, think about it, our skin is the barrier, is what protects us from everything. So she will speak, and I say she as this is a part of us. So I told her, your skin is trying to tell you something. We can treat her topically, but I feel like there's something more that she is trying to tell you. And I recommended her to start journaling and writing what she was feeling, all what was in her mind, like the mind that doesn't
Mhm.
stop
Mhm.
talking. And I said, so come every week for a month and then write. Promise me that you will write every night. Write everything that you're feeling, everything that you're thinking. Just write it out.
Mhm.
Kid you not, within a month, no more bumps.
Oh my goodness. That's perfect.
Eventually, and this was without the harsh medicine that women take or girls take for Accutane and all that stuff to calm your skin.
Mhm.
This was very, we gave her a lot of love to the skin and to herself. The skin was the excuse.
Mm.
Our body talks.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
so that led me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm onto something here. And that led me eventually, besides the fact that my clients were asking me about supplements and I didn't want to recommend something that I didn't know, I went to study nutrition. And that's when I discovered what coaching was, because they taught me how to be a health coach. And I'm like, I'm already doing this, not professionally. And of course, there's so much more to learn, which is what we learned there. And then I took other courses. But I'm like, this is my path, and I found my path. So living, doing what I loved, I eventually led me to find my purpose.
I love that story. That's perfect. So now tell our listeners what you're doing with all this coaching and bringing out the feminine and the power and
Yeah.
yeah, what does that
Well,
look like?
and in that program, I also found my husband, my now husband. So it's like, again, but the beauty of this is that what I'm doing is I support women, and I'm working with women entrepreneurs, but I started with helping women find their confidence, their beauty, and connect with themselves, be kind to themselves, because it was my story. It still is. At different levels, we come with new opportunities to love ourselves more and believe in ourselves more and feel worthy enough for the life that we're finding. I mean, recently, my like just different things that are happening even in my life, I still have to like receive, Paula, receive, because we live in a world that can be really harsh, but there's also so much available to us when we truly allow ourselves to believe it and feel worthy of it. And that, when I started to connect with beauty, I started to realize that there was a part in my femininity that I wasn't owning. I thought the feminine was about being pretty.
Ooh, so talk about
Or
that.
putting,
Mhm.
yeah, putting makeup on and being, looking cute, sipping champagne. Like I thought that that's what was feminine,
Mhm.
and feminine is way more than that. It's a power that's ancestral to all of us women. We create life. Think about it.
Mhm.
We have a womb. We're born with a womb. We give birth to life. We give birth to men, to women, right? Like we give birth to humans. We can also give birth to everything that we desire.
That's such a powerful statement. I love that. I love that.
Yes, and because historically, and you talk about the patriarchy as well, historically, we learned that power is only through the masculine. We forgot. We forgot our true nature as women and how powerful we are. Now, I want to be very honest, Katie, with you, because I don't believe in like fighting for my rights. Like we're masculine when we do that. And there's a time and a place. But I also believe that the power of the feminine, when we become, it starts from the inside out, when we reclaim how worthy we are, just
Okay.
because of who we are,
Mhm.
not because we need to do something about it or we need to accomplish something about it. Does that make sense?
It does. I think that's a really interesting way to think about it. It's not the doing, but the being.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's exactly right. That's it.
Mhm.
And so, but we need both. It's great to do and accomplish, but not in the name of determining your worth. Your worth comes because of you know who you are, not because of what you do.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's helpful because it centers all of us in a very powerful, strong core, right? And
Yes,
we don't have to
yes,
prove it to anyone else, nor do anything to
yes,
prove our worth. We
yes. We
sit
don't need to
centered.
prove.
Hmm.
Yes, we don't need to prove. And the more we get to know ourselves, the more we get to connect with what we like, what makes us feel good. We're here to have fun. We're here, and I know this is gonna sound so like fluffy, but it's not. Like we're here to enjoy our lives. We're here to have pleasure. We're here to receive, not just to give and do to everybody to make others happy. No, we're here also, yes, to do, but as a result of the surplus, not because we're compensating or because in the name of love we have to give and do.
I love that. I think that's really helpful, and it's a different message than we've talked about, Paula, on the program. Like we've not really talked about
Mhm.
how to sit centered on self. And I also think it's interesting because you're not asking us to have like a god or a religious center. You're just saying like let us sit in our bodies and be good with us. And I also think
Yes.
it's really powerful to say that we don't need to do to be helpful all the time. That's definitely a,
No,
don't need to go
no,
making
it's
everything better. We can just be, and for some women, I think sometimes that feels very greedy. And
exactly. I dedicated a whole program in receiving because we were trained to give but not receive.
mhm,
that giving, that receiving made us selfish or greedy, exactly like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Or that we're gonna owe to someone
Yeah.
if we're receiving.
We're in
And
debt.
we need to move away. That's scarcity mentality. That's a lie, and that's in a world that's, I mean, think about it. So abundant nature. You plant a seed and it grows. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It plants a seed and it grows. Yes, it has to have the right environment, all that stuff. You have to water it, but you plant a seed and it grows. We're meant to become more. We're meant to open. We're meant to receive. Meant to give, but from a place where when we are full. If we give when we are not full, and I know they say they talk about the full cup and stuff, but when we do that, we deplete our resources. And what are we truly giving?
Mm-hmm.
Is like, I'm about all the win-win. When I am full, I have so much more to give. And it's a joy. I'm giving out of joy, not out of resentment,
Mm-hmm.
not out of obligation, not out of betraying myself.
I love all.
There's so many things.
No, I think we should say it again, because giving out of joy, giving out of not feeling frail, not feeling I have to as a performative act, all of those
Or
things.
as a needy, or needy, like I need something from you. No, you are your own source of power.
Mm-hmm.
You are your own source.
And I like
and you can have a source.
Yeah, I also like telling women, especially, you could just say, this is what I need, and I'm telling you. I'm telling you, and I'm not even necessarily asking you. I'm telling you. I think that's even more powerful.
Sure. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking. I just feel like it's more about, what do you believe inside before you ask?
I like that.
If you're asking from, right, because if not, it's more demanding. And it's like, I'm telling you, well, yes, it's good, but how about I'm asking you from this place of the heart, this place of openness, and not from a place of like, I want this. Because people feel the energy, for example, in relationship to anyone. But when you ask someone to help you, we ask from the damsel in distress, right? It doesn't feel good, because everyone knows, we know we're powerful. We might not be there and we might not feel it, but you know that you're not meant to be a damsel in distress. That's not your true nature. We know it. It's very different when we ask from a place of worthiness. And the person that receives it, and again, this is a whole journey. We're talking about here, but it's not as easy. It's more easier said than done, but it's possible. And that's what I want, if anything, for someone that's listening here. I want you to know that it's possible.
What about this question then, Paula? Since you're doing all this life transformation and coaching, can you walk us through an example of a woman who's worked with you and where she started and where she went?
Yeah, well, I was just talking to someone a little while ago, and she was doing when we started together, she was filled with resentment. Because something didn't go her way, and she needed to do an exam to receive her degree and her diploma, and it was the last thing that she needed to do, and they rejected her because something that happened, and the details are not important, but basically when she came to me, she was filled with resentment, and we worked on that, because resentment blocks ourselves from being open and trusting, right? It's that dark, it keeps us trapped inside ourselves. We're trying to protect ourselves, but we're not really protecting ourselves. We're cutting ourselves off from having what we want.
Right.
So I helped her see that. Her resentment wasn't protecting her. It was stopping her from living the life that she wanted.
Nice.
And when she said, what you did, she said it today, what you did, you helped me see it from a different perspective. And when I understood that, I was able to let go, and I was able to change my story. And I was
Mm.
able, she did that exam again, and she turned the resentment into gratitude. She took responsibility for the part that she was holding on to, that resentment. And once she did that, she was able to release it with love. And she did that exam, and she got the diploma, and she is amazingly happy in the sense that she feels so accomplished, but she feels, most of it, she feels free.
That's
She
so
feels
wonderful.
lighter.
That's fantastic, Paula. That's such a powerful story too, because I like the idea of letting go of resentment. And maybe
Yeah.
part of that is, when there's two things I always think about is what is within our control and what is not within our control. And if we
Yeah.
sit with what, even if it's small things that we can do that are within our control, honor whatever that is. Like, honor whatever
Yeah.
progress we're making, because you can't always change every other. You can't change your past. You can't change how you grew up.
No,
You can't change who your parents were, or you can't
no.
change any of that. You can't change how much money you had. You can just think about, like, now that I have agency, if I'm going to go out and find more. And talking to someone like you, I like how you said she told you changed her narrative and just her ability to rethink it. And I think for our listeners, I would definitely say that little moment when you find someone who can help you retool how you're understanding something, like someone like Paula, it's a glorious day. It's a glorious day
Yeah.
of your life. Because if you're sitting
Yeah.
in sadness and wallow and poor me and anger, those things don't really serve much. And they're certainly not going to
Well,
make
no,
you feel joy.
yeah, absolutely. Yes. And they block us. They block us from receiving resentment, resistance, when we're resisting so much in our lives. I say the 3 R's that block your receiving, right? When I talk about receiving, why? Because think about it from the feminine perspective. We are designed to receive, we're wired to receive. Even biologically, we're designed to receive.
Mhm.
And so when we are restlessness, we're always like doing something, being busy, 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 as if it's a badge of honor. But what happens when we stop, when we pause, when
Mhm.
we feel? It's not always easy, but yes, that's the key. When we catch ourselves when we're resisting something, because resistance is equal to fear. So we want to make sure that, okay, what's the fear? Let's look at the fear. When you look at fear in the face, it fades.
Mm.
And then resentment, that's another one that we were talking. Resentment also blocks us from receiving, because we think that we're protecting ourselves, but we're not. We're actually blocking ourselves. So like you said, we can't change the past, but we have the power to create the story, to tell ourselves the story that we want to hear, so they can help us build up the platform to create the life that we want.
I love
And
it.
that's on us.
I love it. I love that, Paula. And I'm thinking, what else should we give our listeners? Kind of at this point, we're getting toward the end, but what else would you like to share with our listeners, or about your work, or where they could, go and find more? I'm sure you have a website and everything else, but where else? Where would you have our listeners head to if they're inspired by what you said? Where should they go next?
Well, I know that we're almost out of time, but I want to say that the for me is like a lot of us live in fear and
Mm-hmm.
scarcity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or sacrifice. And I want to invite everyone to move into abundance. The way that worked for me to move into abundance was through learning about my feminine power. And within to understand the feminine, because most of us didn't receive enough examples of femininity. We did receive of strong women like my lineage as well, but they weren't much in their feminine power. They were doing things and they were getting things done, but it was more from a masculine energy, if you will, even though they were women. And we have to understand that we both have feminine and masculine energies within that, men and women. Okay, and everyone, it's more about the energetics of it, not about like the gender, if you will. So when I started to really connect with my feminine energy, it's when things started to make sense. This is for me, but I also realized that there were a lot of women that also were stripped from that feminine, and when they started to connect, like this woman that I was telling you, she started to like, okay, this feels me. She was coming home to herself. And then from when you connect with yourself, you're able to use your energies in a way that serve you, but also you're able to make decisions that are aligned with you. And there are 4 archetypes that are on my website, but there are 4 archetypes, and there are 4. This came through me one day, but it's a long story, but I'm not going to go there. I'm just, most importantly, yeah, because everything has a story. You know how it is. Right. So, but the most important thing that I want you to know is that there's 4 aspects. Sorry, I'm going to take a little water.
You're good.
I get excited. There are 4 aspects, 4 archetypes. I love working with archetypes because I'm a very brainy person, and so archetypes help me organize things in my brain, and these archetypes help me grasp what the feminine is. And I'm just gonna name them, and then you can go on my website and read more about it. One of the TEDx talks about it as well. So, but basically, is the good girl, the wild woman, not the one that lifts her shirt off in Mardi Gras. The wild woman is the one that's connected to nature, is the most instinctual part of us. Okay, the victim archetype and the bitch archetype. So those 4 archetypes, we want to connect with these parts of us. And the truth is that all these archetypes are all within every single woman, and they activate at different times and different situations. The power is to understand each archetype and know why and when they get activated. Because when we know why and when they get activated, we can do something about it. The true feminine power is the good girl archetype, which is all about the heart, is all about love, and the wild woman, which is all about the creator. She lives in our womb. She creates everything. So instead of being a victim, you can be a creator of your life. That's basically what it is. When these 2 archetypes are together, you become an empowered woman. And again, there's more information out there, but I want you to know that when you reclaim the feminine power within you, your life you're going to see life in a whole new way.
That's fantastic. I think you provoked all of us to go to your website, Paula, and learn a lot more. But I'm already envisioning, the quadrants and, designing. I like thinking about it in parts too, because we can think about we're not just one dimensional, and we're not just one part of our lives.
Exactly.
We're not defined by just one experience. We can start to really, I think, embrace and think and be more conscious of which one we're doing and where we want to focus. I think you gave us a ton, a great amount of information.
I was a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but because I have so much that I can talk about, but I'm glad, because I really want every woman to know that you can create everything that you want. I mean, I'm telling you, I came to this country, the true immigrant story. I came to this country with 2 suitcases and $200 in my pocket. And I created everything, and not on my own. I had a lot of people that were put in my path, but because I continued to remain open, even going through a lot of not so fun situations in my life. But I learned a lot, and I always turned the the experiences into an opportunity for growth and become more of who I am.
That's so apparent.
So I want to invite
definitely invite our listeners to do the same. 100%.
Yes.
100%. Well, I'm so glad we had this episode. You've given our listeners something that I think they needed and they haven't heard yet. So I think it's a different way to think about our growth, our development, our healing, and everything else. And your story is glorious and also really empowering and fun. I also like thinking how fun it is too. It's joyful. So
it's very adventurous, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's full of adventure, and it's also full of confidence, and it's also full of, where things went bumpy, you figured out how to navigate those as well. So thank you, Paula.
I asked for help. This is also something that's really hard. I asked for help. So ask for help.
That is fantastic advice. Well, thank you so much
for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you. It's glorious. And for our listeners, please continue to do wonderful self-care. I think Paula gave you lots more in terms of ideas and ways to conceptualize. And please go look up Paula's work on her website and listen to her TEDx talks. I think you'll find them really empowering. And don't forget, we are opening the Dear Katie Collective shop on our website. So if there's anything particularly that, wearables, things that I think sometimes we just need a little bit of oomph or a little reminder in our head. It's the makeup on our face sometimes, or the skincare or whatever it is. But, do what makes you feel, as Paula said, really good, like positives. The hotline for any survivors listening who are now energized by this conversation and want to take some next steps for action, don't forget the sexual assault victims hotline for reaching a lawyer to talk with, trauma-informed care, and take that next bold step in your life too. So continue to listen, follow us. And Paula, thank you again. You are delightful and so empowering,
Thank you for having me. And I'm just sending everyone so much love and so much strength. And this is it. You get to create the life you want. That's it.
Thank you, Paula. Take care, listeners. Thank you again, everybody, for joining another episode of the Dear Katie podcast. I hope very much you found today's episode helpful, empowering, and a way to take another step in that long journey toward healing and supporting those we care about, learning about sexual violence prevention, and also survivor support. For those of you who don't know, again, the Take Back the Night website has tons of great resources, books, self-care options, cool merch. If you're feeling like you need a wearable, we have great t-shirts. Of course, we would love it if you follow along on our free newsletter with news and events going on around the country and even around the globe. And finally, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You'll find our entire community popping up here and there, and recaps of our podcast episodes as well. So together we shatter the silence, and together we end the violence. Take care.